Welcome to Integrated. This is the podcast where we seek to bridge the gap between the intellect and the will so that we can grow as disciples of Christ, surrendering all that we are and all that we have to the truth. Hey guys, welcome back to another live episode of Integrated. My name is Angela Erickson, and today I have the one and only Enoch, everyone's favorite Catholic rapper. Thank you for coming on to my podcast finally. How are you?
Angela, thank you again for letting me hang out with you. This is great.
Well, thank you for adding me to your second Unite the Clan song, because now my kids will stop roasting me about why I wasn't in the first.
That's hilarious. Did they do that? Is that right?
No, for real. Like my kids, they love, we
man.
listen to you all the time, and my kids ask to listen to you. And, they're familiar with the guys over at Avoiding Babylon and all these other people. And so every time we would listen to it, they were like, Mom, why aren't you in here?
That's a good question.
I didn't know Enoch that well.
I didn't know you at the time.
Oh, yeah, but it was super funny. So when you released your second one and I was the first name, my kids were like, oh, what? Mom, you're the first one.
You're
so
the
thank
first
you.
One. Yeah, of course, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've gotten to know so many of the people. A part 3 and maybe a part 4. It's just so many to put in there, just one song.
And Margot made it into the second version too, right there next to Michael Knowles. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. See, I keep my ears to the streets. I know who people like and don't like.
That's so well. Hey, I mean, remember you had her on your podcast? That was such a great episode.
That was hilarious.
Yeah,
that was
that was great. So if you haven't watched Enoch, you have your own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's watching this now live or watching this later, if you have not watched his interview with the infamous Margot, you need to go back to his YouTube channel and watch it. It was so much fun.
Yeah, you're on there too. That was a good episode too. People get to know you more.
Yeah, a little bit. Which now I feel like I have to return the favor. But you ask such great questions about like upbringing and things people like. So I guess I should ask you, like, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Chocolate.
Chocolate? That's kind of boring.
Chocolate, anything. Anything with chocolate. Moose tracks, whatever. It's just anything chocolate. I'm a huge chocolate fan.
Okay, what is your favorite genre of music? Do you prefer rap or is your sense of music pretty eclectic?
It's changed throughout the years. Believe it or not, I like folk, bluegrass.
That Kentucky bluegrass is
it's gotten to me.
I could tell by the straw hat in your last video.
Oh,
I was thinking of you tonight because my husband, the reason we were late starting actually is because my husband is on call, and he, of course, 15 minutes before we get started, he gets called into work. And so all of a sudden he's in the middle of grilling burgers, and I had to go finish grilling the burgers. So of course I thought of your video of you, how to give your wife a night off. The whole time I was like, yeah, this is kind of what it feels like.
It is, huh? You never get the night off. It's the night off for the girls, but the guys are just hanging by the grill, just cooking the meat, and they're like bringing you all the stuff, all the stuff inside. It's
still
really
serving.
Funny.
Yeah.
I think all husbands can relate to that. The wives really appreciated it too. They thought it was funny.
It was really, really funny. Margot would like to know your favorite cereal.
Golden Grams.
Golden Grams?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Our Jason, our favorite on
I'm not a fan of the South.
No,
I'm not a fan of the South rap.
All right. Oh, Catholic country rapper. Okay, that's all horrible. That is. Or is there a country rapper?
Yeah. I don't know if there's a country rapper, but
is there a Catholic one? I hate the bro country is so bad. I wish it would die forever.
Yeah, let it die.
Let it go.
Country music has changed. It's become more R&B.
I was gonna say it's more pop.
Yeah.
Like I just think of the 90s being prime country music.
Go back to the roots. Yeah.
It told a story. That's what made it so beautiful and interesting. And now it's all about drinking, getting drunk, and girls dancing at the bar.
Isn't it horrible?
It's pretty bad.
Yeah. They just took the rap scene and added the country to it, and then now, it's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you said about your husband. It made me think of something. For the people who actually think that priests should get married. This is like any minute you're going to get a call. You're
That's
out.
right.
You're out. It's just so difficult.
They're on
to
call
do.
24/7, not just
Yes.
1 week every so often.
Yeah.
It's 24/7. Yeah, I totally agree. I think I'm always confused why that there's such a push for that in certain parts of the church. It doesn't make sense to me because practically, it would be very hard to be a priest that is attentive to his flock when his heart is so divided with the things that are at home, the thing
Yeah.
because he needs to be present there. He can't
Yeah.
tend to his flock the same way. So that's like a huge blessing, in my opinion, of being Catholic, is we have priests who are supposed to be spiritual fathers and available to us in ways that Protestant pastors just can't be because they have their own families most of the time.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yeah, it just made me think of that when you said that. I'm like, it's just so difficult. Is this Mark?
This is Jason.
Jason,
Yeah.
Sorry, Jason. I'm an East Coast. I'm an
East Coast
Dwight. Guy.
Thank you, Dwight Schrute.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thanks again for coming on. Yes, the reason we wanted to sit down tonight, I know you have a passion for youth ministry. You have a lot of experience doing that.
Sure.
And so before we kind of dive into a discussion on youth ministry specifically, when did you start rapping? Like, have you always done rap music? And then did that sort of become an outgrowth of your youth ministry? What is the timeline of the genesis of Enoch?
Well, Enoch's one of the many names that I've been, AKA. My brother and I started in 8th grade, and that's when we really started to rap. It was part of the 90s where it was the peak of the hip hop era. You had the East Coast, West Coast beef. We were really into that culture. We were living in the West Coast, but we were really more East Coast fans of their music and that rap style. So we just started writing. And it's one of those things where it usually fades. Like, people start garage bands and like they get older and it just goes away.
Mm-hmm.
It just never did. We just kept writing and writing, and then I was conscious rap, and then we moved it. It was nothing bad. It wasn't until I got in the 20s, early 20s, late teens, early 20s, where we start putting stuff on record. And at that time, we've been doing it for years, so we gotten better as far as writing, performing, cadence, and all of these things. But you don't want to hear my first song. It's horrible.
But I actually do.
Oh, I can't find it, but I don't. It's horrific.
Oh, that is so funny.
But it wasn't. And then around later in my 20s, we ended up getting signed by a Catholic record label.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
CMC, and it was an offshoot of a bigger Catholic record label, one of the biggest. And then 2 guys broke off of that. We were their first artists to sign. At that time, we were Elijah and Elisha, or Elisha, whatever you want to call it. That's my brother.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what we were at the time. And that's when we had transitioned over to Catholic rap from conscious rap.
I didn't even know that there was a Catholic record label.
Yeah, there isn't many. There's a couple now. A lot of times they sign more Protestant artists.
Yeah, well, what are your thoughts on that? Because there's so much of the fluffy music that is Christian. Today I was listening to the song by Jelly Roll. What is it called? It's the one where I think it's called Need a Favor.
Okay.
He's a country singer. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
No,
I think he had quite a conversion.
Okay.
And for anyone who's like super sensitive to swearing, he does swear a little bit in this song, but basically the whole song is about how he only talks to God when he needs a favor, and that he only prays when he doesn't have a prayer. And just that cycle, it's just a beautiful song, and you can hear the heartache in it. And he's a lovely singer as well, so that helps a lot. But I tend to be drawn more to that. It's a more secular song, and I'm like, is he Catholic? Because he sings a couple lines, especially in the bridge, where he's like, "Hail Mary, Hail Mary." But earlier he does talk about a King James Bible. Anyway, you guys should go listen to it. It's a great song.
Yeah. I'll check it out. Absolutely.
Yeah, Jelly Roll Need a Favor.
Okay.
And he's like a really big dude with a bunch of tattoos, and I think he had a conversion. He talks about in an interview how he regrets most of his tattoos. But anyway, I'm really drawn more to that music. I find it more, I don't know, like there's more grit and heart to it than a lot of Protestant Christian music.
Yes.
Why does Christian music have a certain flavor to it that feels like it's soft or like it's lacking depth? It's often lacking depth.
Well, I don't know. I think it has something to do with, it flows off of the theology itself. I was talking to my wife about this the other day. I said, I could probably find more people who could find beauty and conversion watching Lord of the Rings, for example, over God Is Not Dead. Because when you have some allegory, because beauty itself draws you,
right?
And I'm sorry, I'm not a fan of any of the Protestant music, any of the Protestant movies. I think they're cheesy. I think they're just straightforward with the message. I think sometimes you gotta have a message of beauty. You said something grit in it, something that, and then you can attach to it that you can also apply Catholic theology to.
Yeah. I sort of think there are certain artists I think of, like Shinedown was an all-time favorite of mine when I was young.
Is that right?
And I hate to say this, but their music was better when they were into hardcore drugs. It's kind of sad.
Yeah.
It's weird. Like, I want to like their music, their newer music, and thank God that they're clean. These are great things. But it's really weird to see this shift even in their music where you're like, I don't know if it's because there's no existential crisis going on anymore, which is great.
Sure.
But why aren't we tapping into that emotion anymore or conveying these things? Because we're still human. We're still struggling with things, which is something that you do a great job in your own music, talking about. Like, you don't shy away from the hard issues of the day in your music. You make it a point to catechize through your music and dig into those deeper things. So why is it that you've chosen to go that route with your music? Because I would imagine there are probably some people would say, I don't think a Catholic rapper should be rapping about pornography, for example. What are your thoughts about that?
No, in a way I can sympathize with some of them. There are other Catholic rappers out there. There's actually quite a few of the people that I haven't heard of. And there's some of them that I'm big fans of, and some of them I just can't stand. I'm not going to name any names here on this podcast. Breaking news.
Enoch, if you're a Catholic rapper, Enoch might not like you.
Right. There's one in particular we don't agree on. But I think one of the big issues is that there's some in the Protestant sense, and I will say this: the reason why Protestant rappers and Protestant music are more widespread and more successful than Catholic, you'd be hard pressed to find Catholic audience who would just go to a Catholic concert. And I think the record labels also know this. That's why it's always within some type of conference where people are giving talks. It's like, oh, you have to have a talk, and then you have this music. They separate the two. There's no message within the music. It's like, here's some music, let's have a blast. And now here's a talk for some meat. Where in the Protestant world, you can go to the Hillsong concert, and it's just a concert. So the audience are more susceptible to go into a concert and just listen to that. But if you could really convey a certain message onto the music itself, and it's harder to do that up on stage, because if people are not familiar with your music, it's harder for them to hear that message for the first time live. Your deliverance, sometimes the words are not as clear. It's a little bit more difficult. But my biggest thing is why shy away from the authentic Catholic teachings if you're making music, the same way as you wouldn't shy away from authentic Catholic teaching if you're making a movie or a podcast.
Right.
It's art, regardless of what it is. So that's been my thing is, and the beauty of it is I can never run out of content when it comes to Catholicism. It's
Right.
it's content everywhere. I've even scratched the surface.
Yeah, thanks be to God. That's one thing I love about being Catholic,
Right.
and the heights to which we do convey beauty. I mean, it's this beauty component is really important because it reaches to the depths of the heart in a way,
Yeah.
especially music does, in a way that nothing else can. That's why Gregorian chant is so incredible, because
Hmm.
it just cuts through everything. And if you're in especially a very beautiful cathedral or something that is also
Mm.
displaying the beauty of heaven, and you have beautiful chant going on,
Yeah.
it's it makes me weepy often thinking about it. My husband had a conversation with one of his coworkers who stopped by the house for a beer after they went golfing, and he was talking about how he went to the cathedral here for a confirmation. Now, this gentleman I don't think is Catholic, but he said the cathedral is so incredibly beautiful.
Right.
Can people even make stuff like that anymore? And we said,
Right.
well, probably not, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how church should be, right? It should be
Right.
beautiful. So I guess like other people want to know, do you like Matt Maher?
uh,
He's not a rapper, so you can say one way or the other and you won't
that's
start
okay.
beef.
Yeah. No, it's all right. Matt Maher, I think, is probably one of the most talented artists that's come out of the Catholic scene. I mean, the guy, I think he has his master's in music, something like that. Like, he knows
He's very
music.
talented.
He could
Hmm.
write music. He could play every instrument. I think sometimes his melodies are great. Do I agree with all of his music and his content? I think it could be a bit more Protestant, very emotional, very cheesy in a way.
Hmm.
But if you're talking about the biggest name of Catholic artistry, I'm not talking about artists who happen to be Catholic. I'm talking about Catholic artists.
Right.
Matt Maher is probably the biggest in the world, and I enjoy some of his music. But am I a huge fan of his music? No. Am I a fan of his ability to make music? Yes.
And I think that's a really important distinction. Let's talk
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
The technical piece of making music,
Yeah.
because even with rap music, the alliteration and
Not
things
easy.
and the timing, things like that, I don't think most people understand uh, how technical that can be. So
Yeah.
talk about your process and what your thoughts are about it, all
Thanks
of
for
that.
thanks for asking that. I've been trying to actually find a platform to talk about the process, because to get people to understand. And I'll start with this, if you don't mind. When I was doing youth ministry really quickly, I had this one game. It was really fun. And we would start off with this game when I gave a piece of paper and pen to the kids, and I said, I want you in detail to write down how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And I had all the pieces up front. I had the bread and the slices and all that stuff and the peanut butter and jelly. And then I would collect it, and I would go one by one and try to make a peanut. And nobody got it. Like, nobody was able to get it, because people like spread the peanut butter on the bread. So I take the whole jar, and I was like, "This is how you do it." Like, you got to say,
Yeah.
"Open the cap." Take. You have to be extremely detailed.
Hmm.
And I think that most folks when they see the final process, they don't see the smaller details that are on there. Number one, when it comes to lyrics, I really try to take as much pride as I possibly can in that. That to me comes first, because I grew up listening to East Coast rappers, and lyricism was the number one thing. I was listening to Cannabis and Nas and Biggie and those guys, Wu-Tang Clan. For them, it was all about lyricism. So there's a difference between rappers who are going to put a single syllable rhyme, which means like
Hmm.
host, ghost, most. That's the end. That's the rhyme scheme at the
Yeah.
end. Or those who can put in multiple syllable rhymes.
Yeah.
And I think almost all of my songs, I really try to put multiple syllable rhymes
Hmm.
um, on there. So, like, for example, I have one of the song called Joker Fossil that's coming out for the next album, and it says, "See, my time on the earth gonna pass starts with a light, then boom goes flash." So you got time. So there's
Yeah.
multiple rhyme schemes within two lines. So that's first for me. Like, I really have to put that together.
Hmm.
But in all reality, I will not entertain a song unless I can put a hook in first. That's the thing. That's the first thing for me. That's the
Yeah.
hook. If I'm comfortable with the hook and I think it sounds great, I could build a verse around it and a bridge around that pretty easy. But the hook for me is the most important part.
Mm-hmm.
Once the hook's established, then it's the rhyme schemes and all that stuff, multiple syllable rhymes into windows. Try to put that. I try to put you know, not just syllables, but also what do they call those? I forgot what they call. Jay-Z's good at those as well. Biggie was too. So double meanings,
Double entendres.
double entendres on there.
Mm.
Like for example, one of the songs in my first album, I said that the church has been ill, um, but they act like it's been a drill.
Mm.
So it's not a drill anymore, guys. This is the real deal. This was Watcher. So Benadryl, ill,
Yeah.
Benadryl. So double entendre, stuff like that. I really love doing stuff. Um, and then just like double meanings on my song Saint Alphonsus, I said, you know, walk my way to hell if the soul fits. So souls, the feet,
Right.
soul fits. So those are the things I'm really trying to put together. Just that there's an art to it. But then the next process is the delivery and the cadence, and
Mm-hmm.
just looking at the certain instrumental, the beats per minute, and try to figure out. And Drake does this too. I've noticed, and he does this way better than I can. But he actually listens to the pauses of the beat more than he listens to the beat itself. He tries to find the gap within the beats, and you can hear it in his raps.
Hmm.
And I learned to do that a little bit too. So I'll come in at a certain time where you think, oh, you should be coming in, you know, in
Right.
this beat. So the cadence will be different. Try to really master every possible cadence and delivery. And then the last process is trying to get the song to sound exactly in your head in reality.
I can't even imagine how hard that would be.
Sometimes you don't perform as well as you thought you did, and the song doesn't come out as you expected it to. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you overexceed expectations. But when I do overexceed expectation, it's because of my engineer, not because of me.
Okay, what is the fastest you have written any of your songs? And how long did it take, do you think? Because you're
The
like turning stuff out fast,
right,
in my
the
opinion.
the melodic stuff that's like not the straight raps, it's more melodic.
Yep.
That I could pump out in 20 minutes, 15-20 minutes.
Wow.
Because I don't have to worry about. For me, it's like I always grew up with R&B. You don't worry about multiple syllables and double entendres. It's like it's a melodic song.
Mm-hmm.
So I could pump those out in 20 minutes. But the stuff that's more of a rap, I'm trying to convey a certain
It's like
message.
really technical. Yeah.
Yeah, that one will probably, you know, the fastest I think I wrote the second part of you know, the clans.
Yeah.
I think
Mm-hmm.
that took about 45 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it took about 45 minutes to write that. Yeah. And that's easy because the concept's there. I'm just adding some names and building around it.
Yeah.
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 The first line is going to be the hardest line. Once you get the first line down, it's just flowing from there. It's pretty
That's
simple.
awesome.
Yeah. So that's the process, really. It just starts with the hook and then it builds around that for me.
Interesting. And I'm assuming everyone kind of does a little bit differently,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So did your rap music, how does that tie in with the youth ministry stuff? You've talked a little bit about youth ministry, and I know that you have a lot of thoughts about youth ministry in the modern church. So tell us a little bit more about your background in youth ministry and what were some of the problems maybe you saw then? How does your rap music play into that? I want to know all the things.
Sure. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I did youth ministry for almost about 10 years actually.
It's a long time. Okay, so for people who maybe aren't
Yeah.
familiar, youth pastors sort of hop around about every 2 years.
Mhm.
It's very the turnover rate is pretty quick. Mhm.
It is really quick. It's kind of funny story. So I got in there in 2008. I just had my conversion in 2006. So 2 years in, reading the church fathers, and I really wanted to give my community something. So it was a local parish in San Diego, and I got in there. It was mass time, and then one of the directors of youth ministry at the time, who's now no longer even Catholic. He came from a Jesuit school. Unfortunately, came up and he said we need catechists. So I was like, hey, I'd love to do that. So I went and saw him, and he gave me a little quiz, and which was great. So we did some I was teaching confirmation, and then he said, hey, do you want to do you want it? Because I think he didn't get that many young adults at the time to try to get a volunteer and help out. So he said, do you want to go on a mission trip to Nicaragua? And I said, yeah, let's do it. If you need some help, I'm your right-hand guy. So we went on a mission trip to Nicaragua, 2008, where I almost died.
What?
I got
You can't say something like that and then not explain it. So
I got so sick. I don't know what happened. Some parasite with the water. Something happened.
Oh no!
I literally lost about 15 to 20 pounds in like 4 days.
Wow!
Like I couldn't keep anything in, dehydrated, and everything. So here I am laying in the middle of the foreign country, and I call my parents because I had a little cell phone that we had gotten from Nicaragua. Now we're in probably the poorest town in Nicaragua. It's called Guzmapa, and we're like up in the mountains, and we're in huts. Except for our house, the people who were doing missionary work, we had a house that was a brick home, nothing fancy. So I'm laying there, and at that time I had the biggest devotion to Saint Pio. So I'm asking Saint Pio to spare me. To ask our Lord to spare me because he had suffered a lot, and I know he had suffered a lot too. And so the doctor comes and he's like, "Hey, I can give you this shot," and I was like, "I'm not taking a shot in a foreign country in the poorest town in Nicaragua." I was like, I don't. It's like the doctor looked really young, so I didn't really trust him. I was like, "You got any pills just to kind of stop, me vomiting and losing fluids?" Gives me the pills, they don't work. I'm getting worse at this point. Like I can't walk. Like I had to be carried to the car. I was like, this is it. Like I'm dying. Like my organs are gonna shut down. Like I'm gonna die. So they put me in on his kitchen table, and his like 16-year-old daughter is administering the shot in the IV. Like I'm like, my entire life is in the hands of this foreign doctor.
It's flashing before your eyes.
Flashing before my eyes. Yeah. So luckily, got fluid in me, got the shot. I don't know what it was still to this day. And it's funny because, it doesn't matter who you are and where you are in life. At the very end of, if it's the end or even if it's near the end, your hands, your life is at the hands of whoever the Lord wants it to be. And at that time, a young doctor in the middle of nowhere in a foreign country. I was able to make it through. Thanks be to God. I got back home, continued doing youth ministry. He left. Another youth minister came. Great youth minister. Had all of the charisma. The youth loved him, but he didn't have too much of the meat. Super, could pack a house. Super fun guy. And to this day, great youth minister, great guy. He ended up being there for 2 years, like you said. Then he ended up getting a better offer, so he left. So I wanted the position at the time. I'd been there about three or 4 years at the time. They didn't give it to me because they said, "Oh, you don't have a theology degree. You're too young." So they hired some other guy who, to this day, is my best friend. I didn't know him from Adam at that time, and I remember because at the time I wasn't a fan of the charismatic movement. Still, coming from the Eastern Church, I had grown up. Going to East Catholicism.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Because I'm Eastern. I'm Syriac Catholic. I'm not Roman Catholic.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. So
how did I not know that?
I don't know, which is kind of cool because my wife and we baptize and confirm our kids at baptism. So they're confirmed in the Eastern rite and baptized.
That's super cool.
Which is really great. So my wife's like, yeah, if we can get them both sacraments in the Eastern rite, do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which was great. So
I love your wife, by the way. She's awesome.
Oh yeah, she's so great.
I feel like we would be best friends.
She said the same thing to me the other day. She's like, I feel like her and I would be really close friends. You guys do the same thing.
We're like the same person.
You are. You literally are. It's hilarious.
It's so funny.
So share right. I've always been in love with the mysticism of the church and the suffering saints. I always loved suffering saints.
Me too, actually.
Yeah, isn't it great? Like the suffering saints, the desolation, the dry spiritual, and I'm like, just give me all.
Why are you drawn to that, do you think?
I don't know, because I don't know what it is. It's just the challenge of like, it's not so much a challenge, but like I just want to prove that I love the Lord. without the consolation, without any spiritual gifts. It's just like, I just want to do it for your sake. And the saints that did that, I'm like, I'm so drawn to them. It's like a magnet. John of the Cross, Avila, like I love the Carmelite spirituality.
That's so funny. I do too. And I love St. Teresa of Avila. I love St. Gemma Galgani, Padre Pio, like those.
St. Juliana.
I feel like, they just, and maybe we just need more of that. And so God is really bringing us to a place of, reminding us that suffering is efficacious. And we need more of that, because many sins, many demons will not be cast out except for by prayer and fasting. Right?
Yeah. That's a good point. That's a good point. That is the one message that I think we need to give youth, but we'll get there. So, and then the youth minister came in. The first question I asked him, we had a bonfire type of night for the old youth minister introducing the new youth minister. He'd come in, I saw him, and I didn't even say hello to him. The first question I asked him, I'll tell you to this day, I said, "Are you traditional or are you charismatic?" Because the youth minister that I was with at the time, just helping it, he was very charismatic.
Yeah.
No, don't get me wrong. He came from Steubenville, so theology was good.
Yeah.
But he was very charismatic in his approach. When the new one came in from TAC, Thomas Aquinas College.
Yeah, which is so different.
Yeah, exactly. So, which is funny because I got the best of both worlds of learning from these two guys. And so he came in, and his funny answer, he's like, "Both." That's what he said. He's like, first of all, I was like, "Who are you? Why are you asking me this question?" We're like best friends now. It's like the funniest thing.
And I love that his answer was both. Because I mean, I'm tratty, but like I also feel as if, Pentecost was a real thing. I don't know. I think both sides sort of lean too heavily on the other, and so much of our faith really is both and.
Yes.
We're not exclusive that way.
No, that's a good point. That's a really, really, really good point. I think it needs to be driven more. So, and that's what I learned from him more than anything. There she is.
She's making her appearance.
Oh, I love it.
You say hi.
So
she loves your music. You should. I should send you a video. You've seen videos of her dancing to your music, but
I love it.
She now pretends to snap. She can't do it, so she does this.
Is that right? Oh, that's so cute. She's adorable.
Oh, thank you.
She's like, what? She's like, what a weird beard. Anyways, so when he came in, I learned so much from him. He was there for 3 years. So in 2013, I remember I started helping in 2008. I left 2020, so that's 12 years of youth ministry. Whether in 2013, I got the job. They finally gave it to me after he left. And I think he set it up really funny. He announced he was leaving literally like a month before confirmation started. And he's like, "You got no choice but to give Fawaz the job." And he wanted me to be his, successor, which was great because I was getting married. I didn't, the job that I had at the time wasn't really paying enough. So this was perfect. I got a ministry job. I'm just getting married. I got the job on Wednesday. I get married on Saturday.
Wow.
We went to the Sacred Heart for a novena. God delivered. So I got the job. At first, to be honest with you, the rapping had nothing to do with youth ministry. At that time, I had stopped rapping. My brother and I, the record label didn't work out. They ended up giving us our master's publication for free because they felt so bad, which was great. And then my brother and I put the album out. It's actually still out there. It's called Spirit versus Flesh, Elijah and Elisha.
I'm going to go find it.
Search for it. You can find it. It's my brother and I's album. I think there's about 13 songs on that one. It's completely different than what you hear now. From the sound that I have now. But I started youth ministry in 2013, and I really wanted to make changes. I've been watching 5 years now, with two different youth ministers, and I really wanted to make some changes. And the priest was like, "Never make changes the first year, just learn." And I was like, "You gotta be kidding me!" I was so eager.
I've been watching for years.
Yeah, so And then I took, like what you said, I took what the two have been doing and really came in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
After the year of just doing the same old thing and not seeing a turnaround, year after year, we see confirmation kids come and confirmation kids go, because what they view it as is a graduation.
Yeah.
I'm checking this box because my parent want me to. I'll see you when I get married or my funeral. That's
Right.
what it is. That's what sacraments are. And most of the time, with the young ladies in the Hispanic culture, you're in confirmation because you want your quinceañera.
Mm.
That's why.
That's so what is the connection there between the quinceañera and confirmation?
Most parishes will not even let you have your quinceañera unless you're enrolled in the confirmation program.
What?
Yeah, because
Oh, I didn't know that. That's so interesting.
well, that was Diocese of San Diego because you were 15 years old when you got, when you got confirmed. So if you're preparing for quinceañera at 15, 14, 15, at 14 years old, about to turn 15, you had to at least be in the first year program.
Wow.
And we had about 400 confirmation students every year in our parish.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was huge. It
That's
was a
huge.
big parish, big parish, largely Hispanic, beautiful people. I really miss the Hispanics. I don't see them much in Kentucky.
No, no, you don't.
But yeah, I love the Hispanic culture. Love the people. I think they're really, really family oriented, and
Mm-hmm.
they really mean well. I just love that culture. Um, so when I first, and now at that time, I didn't know the tradition too well. I'd heard about Latin Mass, been there a couple of times. Um, it wasn't until 2016 that I heard Sensus Fidelium, Father Isaac.
Mm.
And I think my love for the mystics and my love for the suffering and those saints
Yeah.
drew me. It was like an arrow
Magnetic.
straight to the
Yeah.
soul. Yeah, and
Mm.
Father Isaac spoke, and as a man, I'm like, this guy is the greatest thing ever. So I I switched my program from what I was doing for 2 years, from 2014 to 2016. After I found the tradition, I completely switched up the program. I decided to invest in um, post confirmation leaders, but I picked what's the I call the 12.
Mm.
And so, which is funny because the 12 that we had picked, this just so amazing. Nothing would have gone right without these 12. They literally were there almost every single day, and they
Wow.
wanted to be around each other so much. And a lot of times, like they didn't know each other except for church, and they pretty much like most of the time gave up their friends from school, and they just wanted to be around each other all the time.
So how did you cultivate that? Because I think fraternity is one of those things that is so missing for young men,
Right,
wholesome fraternity.
right.
I grew up in the middle of nowhere, tiny, tiny area. Our school was in a cornfield, and what the kids did on the weekends,
Yeah,
I mean, the good kids, I don't know, they hung out and went to football games or something. And then the not good kids, everybody just got trashed at somebody's cabin on a lake. Like that was what they did in the middle of nowhere.
right, right.
Um and I just see now in
Small town
hindsight,
vibes.
it was I'm not kidding. That's a small town living,
Yeah.
not a whole lot to do when you're living in a bunch of cornfields except for get drunk, I guess. I don't know. So like how did you cultivate that fraternity, and what was the impact on not just the men but like the women, the young girls? Was there sort of like a did they also respond in kind, just natural complementarity there, or like what was that like and what did you do?
Right. Well, so part of the 12 wasn't just the men. It was
Oh,
it was it
okay.
was a, it was a combination of men. It was boys and girls, and it wasn't 12. I think it was about
Doesn't
maybe.
sound very traditional to me.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, 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 yeah. I washed the feet of men and women.
I was gonna say you washed their feet too, didn't you? I
Yeah,
I was one of the recipients of a foot washing one Holy Thursday. May God have mercy on me. I
yeah.
don't.
It's okay. Hey, we're all recovering modernists, aren't we?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yes, in one way or another.
exactly. No, but that's funny. It was just so funny. I think they just found so much like love and comfort within each other, and
Hmm.
they just kept coming back, which was like the key. Like that's I found that this was the key, because it was such a magnetic connection within themselves, and of course, and a lot of times I think it was within Christ, because they would when they go out to eat, they'd like pray before meals.
Mm-hmm.
They would do the smallest little things out in public, and they would keep each other accountable, and it was just the greatest thing ever. What ended up happening was after the 12 came in, I call it the 12, but it was about 17 of them, 17 or 18. I had like a summer training where they were there almost every single day during the summer, and they wanted to be. They wanted to. That's the thing.
What were you teaching them at this training?
How to lead small groups correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Not ask dumb questions like, on a scale of 1 to 10, where's your prayer life at? I couldn't stand those sort of stupid questions. Like, how do you even answer that? Like, what like, if you say
what
0,
does that even mean?
No, it's like, it's so funny because I used to hate that question. I used to get that question, and I as like not the leader, but I was like this the side person, the helper. I used to tell youth ministers, I said, how do you answer that question? If they say 0, you can say, well, you could do better. If they say 10, well, you think you're a saint? Like, what do you even answer?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's just a silly question. So,
and it's very relative. Like, there's no standard. Right. I mean, unless you're describing what a 5 looks like, what a 10 looks like, and what 0 looks like.
Yes.
Then, yeah.
That's my biggest problem with youth ministry, is there's no application or explanation. Come to Jesus. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's feelings based, which I think for you, and this is where you being an artist, you're going to understand this. I see a problem in traditionalist circles of sort of wholesale ignoring emotions as if they have no place whatsoever.
That's so true.
But God gave us emotions,
yeah.
And they're meant to be properly ordered. What are your thoughts on that as an artist, and how do you encourage that proper integration of the intellect and emotion? Because that's what you're doing when you're making music. So how do you combine those things, and then how do you translate that and teach people like these young people in youth ministry how to do that, so that they're able to do that in their own lives? Like, we have to be able to have an honest conversation that feelings are okay, you guys. Feelings are okay.
No, they're necessary.
They are necessary.
Necessary, rightly ordered. Like you said, rightly ordered. And I think the person have to at least have an understanding of what it means to be rightly ordered.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe just even striving towards that. And I think once I found the tradition, when I say tradition, I don't mean just the TLM. I'm talking about the traditional understanding of sanctification, how the church has always viewed it. And I think Vatican II was correct in the whole approach of holiness is for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think there were some people who thought that's just for the cloistered nuns.
Yes.
That's just, but no, your vocation is to holiness. That's for every single person in the state of your vocation at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if the person is even approaching, virtue or learning how to build virtue, they could listen to certain music like rap, because rap is not intrinsically evil.
Mm-hmm.
Or, contrary to popular belief, it gets a bad stigma because, and I get it why.
Mm-hmm.
But even
do you think there's like a demon associated with rap music specifically? Like,
depends on the artist. I think there is,
because I mean it can be so vulgar in a secular context. Mm-hmm. Why is that?
So here's what I think happened, and I'm gonna go off topic for a second, and we'll bring it back.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. No, this is a great question. So in the early 90s, if you listen to the rap in the 80s, it was very conscious. It was very uplifting. KRS-One, Rakim, it was mostly talking about themselves and their ability to put rhyme schemes together. It was very battle and ego-driven, but it wasn't in your face. I'm going to shoot you and I'm going to degrade the ladies.
Right.
That came in mostly in the early 90s. What happened was, foreign investors came in and invested in private prisons. And they said, we need to pack these private prisons up because obviously you need people in prison in order for you to make private prisons successful. What they did is a lot of these record labels went to these rappers and said, you got to make gang violence popular through music. So they robbed the culture in that way. So it became get the fathers out of the home, join a gang, be a drug addict, kill one another. It became a lifestyle that was incredibly lucrative. It was the apple that Eve saw. It was.
Whoa. Okay.
So that's what happened in the
Where
inner.
did you learn this? And where this is
Yeah.
crazy.
I'm
So
gonna
you're
find.
saying you should find
Yeah,
something and
I'm gonna find
post
the
it in the
article. Yeah,
comments.
we'll do. Yeah,
This is
absolutely.
insane.
It is. Yeah. So this is what happened in the early '90s. That's why it switched from this, battle rap, and you had LL Cool J versus Cool Mo D, and then the KRS One, and you had Rakim versus Big Daddy Kane. It was lyricism and it was art, and then it became gang related in the early '90s. Even in the late '80s when NWA had come out, this is what it was. So it worked. It really got a lot of these poor people in the inner cities. First of all, there's not many fathers there, so you already have a disadvantage, and now you're teaching them, okay, you have no father, the gang is going to be your family. This is your lifestyle. And the biggest mistake, in my personal opinion, the Catholic Church ever made, and I think me and Robbie Brown have talked about this, is we went to the Hispanic community, and even in the ghettos, and I think we preached there. And a lot of times you see the TLM parishes in the ghettos, in the inner cities, in the Hispanic cultures. I think it was a huge missed opportunity in the Black community. The church didn't do. There was a void, and the Baptists took up that void. I don't think the Catholic Church did, which I think is a problem, because I think the Catholic Church is the only church to understand domestic church to a sense that can really bring that culture back to what it needs to be.
That's a really interesting thought. And I think, of course, I think Catholicism it's the truth. So you want that everywhere. You want everyone to have access to the truth.
Right.
Wow, that's explosive. Why does everything go back to money? It is the root of all evil.
It is. The love of it is the root of all evil, unfortunately.
Yes, the love of it, correct.
So unfortunately. So that's what happened. This is why rap is so demonized. But now the music itself also, like if there was no lyrics, just the music itself also needs to be moderated, because it's syncopated, which means the right order of music is flipped backwards. It approaches the emotions first. It drives the emotions, not the intellect. So if you can, that's why I tell people, it's like, oh, I listen to your music all the time. I said, that's great. Let's listen to chant more. And then, if you're working out, listen to my music.
So true.
Because I make music for people to work out to. You don't have to worry about the lyrics. The consciousness, the subconscious is not picking up anything that is evil. But the beat is driving you to have a good workout.
Well, let's talk about that physiological response that we have. So this is like another aspect of my whole thought on what it means to be integrated, because our mind, bodies, and soul are all wrapped up together. And this is one thing about music too. Like, chant, it reaches to the core of your person, both on an intellectual and an emotional level. But even your heart like syncs up with the bass when you're listening to something. And that's why I think one of the reasons why, anyway, people have these religious experiences at concerts. And that's why people will say that think about it. Like, how many times have you been at a concert and just blown away because everyone is singing the same thing? You're all feeling the same emotions. And that's why, in Catholic Church, praise be to God, what's happening at the altar has nothing to do with your emotions. That's a gift. But a lot of people will go and they're seeking, they think that they're not being fed because they're not experiencing this emotional high. And then they'll go to a concert and realize, well, this is what I was looking for. This isn't a religious experience for me. I guess I'm not a Christian anymore because I found religion and spirituality here instead. So talk about how rap and music in general does connect with the body on a physiological level.
Yes. No, it does. And I think Plato talked about this, and he went so far as to say that you could change an entire culture. It's very true. It does speak to the soul. Yeah. Because I think music comes from within man. it must follow the right order of the faculties of man.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything has order. Beauty has order. Music has order. And I think the reason why chant is just so perfectly ordered because it's simplistic. It reaches. It's just for the intellect. It's simple and it's true.
It's simple and harmonizes.
Yeah.
Like there's something so amazing with harmony. And I
Yes.
think it really speaks to the communal nature that we have as human beings
Right.
and uniqueness, right? Like, and yet these things can be harmonized. Even people who aren't really generally very good singers, if they can keep a tone, they can actually do well with chant.
Not a good singer.
You can't sing?
I cannot sing to save my life. Thank God for autotune. Everything you've heard is mostly autotune.
Oh, what do you do for live shows then?
I don't do the melodic songs. I just do the rap songs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, until I can get
Live.
myself a live. It's expensive, but I'm going to get it one
Can
of
you go
these
Britney
days.
Spears on us, please, and lip sync?
I refuse. I can't. I cannot stand artists that do that. I mean, I guess it would be different from a rapper. You want not so much lip syncing, but sometimes with rappers, they'll lower their voice and they'll rap live with their voice in the background.
Oh, yeah.
But there's one thing that rappers are good rappers, I guess you would say. There's an unwritten rule: you never let anybody write your own lyrics as a rapper. That's the one thing that rappers have a pride in. Never let anybody write your own your lyrics. But anyway, so going back to what you said, I think you're absolutely right. And Plato said it himself. I forgot what priest it was. He was talking about he went up to the highest point of the bell of a cathedral, and then they rung the bell. He was standing next to it. He felt such a vibration from the bell that it gave him physical pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Because sound can affect us in that way.
Yep.
And rap is syncopated, but it drives the emotions first. This is why I think it's good when you're working out, or you're a soldier, you're preparing for battle or whatever it may be. It can get you motivated and get you going. In that context, rap is good as long as the lyrics do not violate the principle of the integral good. There's no blasphemy against God or
the dignity of man. Yeah.
Exactly. So those are the things that. But other than that, if you're sitting at home and you just want to, if for example, I do this too, like cleanup time. I have families who play my music during cleanup time at their house, and their kids love it. They're cleaning. Yeah, I have so many
Or when I'm
families.
washing the dishes and
Yeah,
I don't feel like singing my heart out,
yeah.
then it's Enoch. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Send me videos, and they say having cleanup time, and the kids are cleaning up, listening to music, and it's like you're using it in proper context. Or after mass, you just left mass, you guys are heading back home, you're in the car, jam out. It's like it's a very joyful time. We just received Jesus. But other than that, I think the majority of the time, chant really orders the soul. And if you get some pleasure out of listening to chant, as far as like emotional pleasure, as far as pleasure as far as the lower faculties, there's something wrong with you. Because I think it really reaches the heart and it reaches the intellect more.
Yeah, it's so interesting. So I have a story. I don't know that I've ever shared it actually on my channel, but
Share it.
when I was a young mom, we'll get to Alex Nagel's question here in a moment. But when I was a new mom with my oldest daughter Avery, we were listening to music, and one day I decided to put on Gregorian chant for something. This is when I was like a practicing Catholic, but I wouldn't say I was anywhere near what I am now. I mean, always practicing and growing and stuff, but I don't know. Gregorian chant was just not something I listened to.
Yeah.
And I turned it on one day, and my daughter, who was maybe 15 to 18 months old, she, yes, sorry.
This is great.
You got your first wiggly tooth? Great. Can we look when I'm done recording?
Yes.
Sorry, John is so excited. It's his first loose tooth.
Congratulations, John.
Congratulations, John.
Breaking news.
I need to make a banner. Oh,
I love
it. John has a loose tooth. Add banner.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, there we go.
Congratulations, John. Oh, you're the best kid.
They are. Oh, here we'll scroll it on the bottom.
There we go.
No, he is so funny. So anyway, I remember I turned on Gregorian chant for the first time, and she looked at me and she said, "Mom, I hear angels singing." And I remember being like, wow, there's something really amazing here about this. I can't believe that my daughter, who's like never really heard Gregorian chant, instantly associated it with God and heavenly things. It was really amazing to me. And I just remember thinking, this is so, like, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life because this is important.
Beautiful. Mm-hmm. That's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. That's so beautiful. When kids just out of nowhere start to associate heavenly things, it's just the most beautiful thing you'll ever hear.
It really is out of the mouths of babes, right? Like, yeah. And I those moments as a parent too are just amazing. So how has your music transformed your views, or like, how do you, I guess, transmit your fatherhood into your music, and how has that sort of fed back into your family life?
That's a good question. I don't know if it's changed much, to be honest with you. My kids are fans of my music, so which is nice.
Do they make you rap for them all the time? We're gonna have you do a freestyle at the end of this. So for anyone who maybe is thinking about leaving, you don't want to leave yet.
Oh yeah, we're doing a freestyle at the end. Absolutely, yeah. This is the first time we're doing a freestyle on any podcast, so they're doing it on this one.
Awesome.
But my third boy like loves my music. Ambrose, like he just like adores my music. But I guess in a way, if I wasn't the father, I wouldn't have some of the experiences I have to put in the music. So it's really transformed. Like, my wife and I did suffer a miscarriage between our third and fourth, and that's what really.
So sorry.
No, well, thank you. Yeah, that's it's so tough, and I think sometimes I don't. As men, there's this whole like this protectiveness of it. This where we in a way like we're trying to move on because it's like I got kids to take care of, I got to make sure the wife's okay, the mom's okay, I still got to get back to work. All of these things are going through, and it's hard for us to express that in a certain way, even though like we gotta kind of dig it, just bury it as deep as we can and move on. It was one of those things because the baby wasn't baptized, obviously, wherever he is, it's up to God, limbo or heaven, whatever is the will of God. I just know he's not suffering. We named him Vianney because that's a boy and a girl name. We didn't know what it was, and we have a property, and we have this like nice, beautiful cage with a bouquet and everything. So we buried him there, or her. I only say him because I have 4 boys, and I know I'm not going to have girls because it's just not having girls.
Yeah.
So we buried him there, and when I'm mowing the lawn or whatever, I'd always see Vianney, and I was like, I gotta deal with some of the stuff that I've put in somehow, and for me, it's always been music. Even though I had my 10-year, between 7 to 10 years of not making music, I was always making music, but I was never putting it on record.
Yeah,
I was always just coming up with lyrics in my head, coming up with melodies. I've always dealt with heartache and things and tragedies in life through music. Not just listening, but also making music.
Yeah,
And that's where the song "Far Away" came from, the new song that I had put out about the miscarriage. So, I guess my experiences as a father and husband has, helped me come up with newer concepts.
right. So it offers you a way to work through stuff, and out of that is born just music. So you still have that give and take, maybe, and you maybe didn't even realize it or think about it in that way.
Right.
Do you have any final thoughts on anything we've discussed tonight? I want to give you the floor to promote your work
Sure.
and also, offer us a little freestyle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want people to go check you out.
Thank you. Yeah. So final thoughts just go back to the youth ministry thing. There's one thing that the youth are today that is the biggest obstacle. Number one, the biggest obstacle to the youth are the parents,
Hmm.
because the parents use youth ministry as a magic wand. I'm going to drop my kid off after not catechizing him for so amount of years, and you are going to fix my child once a week for an hour.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but the biggest problem that I'm seeing with kids now is is it apathy? Is it when they don't care about anything? Is that what it is?
Apathy.
Yeah,
Hmm. And
that's
nihilism. I think that nihilism is a real issue today of not having no hope of anything at all.
they have despair. It's like someone's like, well, I Jesus died for you. Like literally, their response is, I
I don't
don't
really
care.
care.
I don't
Hmm.
really care. Why did he die for me? I don't want. I didn't want to be born. Like there's just so that's they're hopeless. And I
Hmm.
think the world is like literally offer them the hope. And I think that there's one thing I could say to youth ministers is if you give them any sense of purpose, the youth will literally bend over backwards. They will cross the ocean to reach that purpose. They have the ability to do so, but they need a purpose. That's why the left does so well, because they give them a purpose. They give them a causation of visible return. Social justice warriors. If you put a black screen, you're doing something good. If you
Hmm.
recycle, you're giving them something. And what is the church giving them other than the fact that rainbow Jesus and Jesus loves you? It ain't working.
Hmm.
It doesn't work. Give them a purpose. Why do you think some of the young men who are growing beards, smoking pipes, are going to the TLM? Because there's a certain spiritual warfare that we're engaging in, that we bought into, that gets us really excited. It gets us to wake up in the morning like I'm battling Satan today.
It's
Like
true.
yeah,
It's true. Like, I do think that kids don't want to be, I think of teen angst. They don't want to be treated like kids anymore, mom. Like, give them something to fight for,
yeah,
and don't hold their hand through everything.
mm,
Challenge them. They want to be challenged. Kids want to prove themselves, especially as they get to those teen years. They want to prove themselves. So it's okay to challenge our children a little bit and have
yes,
expectations for them.
yeah,
But we as parents also have a duty to them to educate them.
mm,
And that's not just reading from your Baltimore Catechism, that's also modeling for them what it's like to grow in virtue and humility, especially saying, I'm sorry when you make mistakes, things like that, acknowledging that they have feelings and that they are their own persons. Those are things that I think cultivate really strong bonds with our children and help transmit the faith in the process.
right. No, that's a beautiful way to put it. Beautiful. Thank you for putting it that way. Yeah, that's very true. Very important message to parents.
Hmm.
And I'm learning that as I'm getting older and having kids and trying to navigate through all of this. But no, as far as promoting goes, just the same old. But go download the albums, listen on Spotify. That's literally how I don't have a Patreon. Um, this is how I end up making the money that I could put back into music.
Hmm.
And I I would say this. It took me about almost a year to break even for Tradiciones, to make the money back that I
I
had
believe
put in.
it.
Yeah,
I
that put in
really do.
initially. And then with Deus Vault, I haven't broken even yet. So for me to
Come
keep,
on, you guys. You got to go buy his music. I have bought every single song of
no,
yours.
yeah, that's so nice. I appreciate that more than anything. Not only just that, but I just love like getting these messages from saying, my family's listening to music. My kids love your music. You listen to music. That means the world to me, and I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah, it's like again, like I said, I'm a nobody in the middle of Kentucky making rap music, and people listening to me.
It's so funny.
It's humbling. It's really beautiful. Yeah, yeah,
That's really
yeah.
awesome.
So you
Well,
hear a freestyle?
yeah,
Okay.
do it.
So there's different type of freestyle. So there's off the dome, which I'm not gonna do because I'll probably make mistakes. Off the dome meaning like I'm just coming up with the stuff. There's other freestyles where it's like it's recently written, but it's free. It's like this doesn't have much of a, like, it won't be put on a record. It's just something that you just rap. So I did write this just for this podcast specific. Okay,
that's amazing. Thank you.
all right.
I'm
So
excited.
it goes like this. It goes, open them doors, let them in. Holy juice on the side. Dip your hands when you arrive. Cross yourself, ancient gesture. Make your way to the pure pew. Perform the perfect genuflection. If it's your first time here, then welcome. The red books for direction now stand for open procession. What's more impressive than incense while the priest is rocking his beautiful vestments? This is the battle versus darkness. This ain't a pretty war. It's the glory of God and what this really for. The mercy of God that can fit you. The grace of God is what we're praying for, followed by the QEA layer song. It's the Holy Scriptures. It's the official. Sit back for the epistle. It's the gradual. This next, open your missile. Stand for the gospel, sung before the tabernacle. It's the only way. Cross yourself. Gloria tibi domine. This is for God and justice. This is who you owe. When the priest says Dominus vobiscum, you say?
Et cum spiritu tuo.
Yep. Now it's time for the
I'm not like always at the Latin Mass. So.
It's all right. You did it right. You did good. Let's do it again. This is for God and justice. This is who you owe. When the priest says Dominus vobiscum, you say?
Et cum spiritu tuo.
Now it's time for the creed, the profession of faith. Get your money ready. We finna bless the plates. We finna get ready to transubstantiate the wheat and the grapes. The Sanctus, Sanctus, Sanctus comes after the preface. Bow your head for the host. Bow your head to the host and the challenge the priest. Elevate back to the gold plate. We pray the Agnus Dei. You in the state of grace, stand in line with your neighbor. When it's your turn to kneel with good posture and proper behavior, keep your hands to yourself, extend your tongue out to your Savior. Kneel down in thanksgiving since it's your sins He paid for. It's the Lord's day. It's the only place to be rocking the truth. In the state of mortal sin, you could talk in the booth and say, why is the priest turning away from me? Because he ain't talking to you.
Wow. Thank you so much. That was awesome. Sorry, I wasn't expecting the audience participation part. And I forgot just one last thing, because I said that we would just address this. What is discuss the logos of music with Tim Flanders? Oh,
yeah.
Can you explain this? I don't know what this is.
Yeah, so Tim Flanders actually has he's a brilliant guy.
I love Tim. Yeah, he's a great guy.
And he has the theory, which is actually the correct theory, about music, not just the words, but the music itself can affect the soul. It's the logos of music. And it's one of those things. He's not a fan of rap for that reason, which I could, but I'd love to sit down and talk to Tim.
Yeah, I'll talk to Tim. Yeah. I'll talk to him.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's talk to Tim. Tim, funny, Tim always says to me, he goes, let's talk about 90s hip hop, because apparently he's like, he used to be into it. And he had
a radical conversion.
Did he?
Yes, he and his wife. So Sally says that she loved it. Thanks, you so much for coming on. I'll try to connect you with Tim, and I would love to hear you guys talk about that.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
And thank you guys for tuning in tonight. If you have any questions, where's the best place for people to connect with you, Enoch?
I think Instagram. I'm more, I don't know, Twitter, but I'm on Instagram. You can DM me, or holy40project.com. I'm sorry, holy40, so 40 project at gmail.com is my email if you want to send me an email.
Okay, and we'll put that, we'll drop that information in the description after the show. Okay, thank you so much. God bless you guys, and we'll see you next time.